everyone, and welcome to another edition of Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
And we're going to be going over the games that were played this past week. I went 9-5. My father kicked my butt going 12-2. The man doesn't even watch football, and he picks games better than Eric and I. I don't get it. I'll never understand it. Fun fact.
Well, I went 12-2 as well.
Oh, well.
On you.
Whatever. All right, fine. You both did better than me. I'm going to be on LT's show Friday night. I'm going to phone in. He's doing a live stream, so if you guys have questions, you can go on his show and ask, and I'll interact. So it's not going to be a recording that I'm going to put on as Total Football Talk. It's going to be on his channel. So be ready for that. All righty. Let's just start with the 49ers and Raiders game as far as picking who's going to win. I'm actually picking San Francisco because I think the Niners are going to lead on Britta, and I'm not really sure that the Raiders offense is going to be able to put up enough points based on the situation that they are not going to have the ball a lot. And I have not found the Raiders to be a quick score team this year. I know the Battle of Bay should go in the Raiders' favor, but I like Britta against that defense. You just informed me that they're starting a backup quarterback, but I don't think it matters. I think the Raiders are just that bad. Again, I think their run defense is a problem. I think the 49ers' only real strength on offense is running the football. I like the idea of running off of Staley and picking up some big yardage off tackle or just inside of the tackle. Maybe even using their fullback there, number 44. I forget his name, but I really like him. I keep wanting to say Khrushchev.
Old John Ritchie's number.
Yeah, right. I think he's going to do fine though. I think the Raiders are gonna have a problem stopping the run. Your call?
The Raiders are 1-6. They don't have an identity. 49ers are 1-7. Their identity is with a torn ACL on the sideline. Both these teams are really just already looking forward to next year. I think the Raiders are looking forward to 2 years when they're in Vegas. But I'll take the more experienced quarterback over the undrafted free agent. So give me Carr and the Raiders by a score of 20-17 when it's all said and done over undrafted free agent Nick Mullins. CJ Beathard couldn't grip the ball, but he is the backup quarterback today. He's going to be there in case of an emergency. And the third string quarterback is actually Tom Savage. Yes, you've heard that name before. He used to be on the Texans.
Wow.
But I'm going to take the Raiders in this game. If the Raiders lose, Anthony, if you want up on me, it'll be like the first time all year. So
yeah, no kidding, right? I'm going to go Raiders. I'm going to go 49ers 20-10. Eric, hold on a minute. Sorry about that. We need a quick break. Had to get a couple of things taken care of. So as far as the Raider game goes, so you're picking Oakland. I'm picking San Francisco 20-10. Now I want to go back to
last time the two Bay Area teams will face.
Yeah, that's why I'm recording it. It's kind of a because I don't know. Look, I don't think it's smart that the Raiders are moving to Vegas. I think this is going to be 4 years later. The NFL is going to be like, oh my God, what have we done? But you're taking college athletes who've gotten away quite literally with murder in some cases, never been disciplined once in their life, and you're going to put them in Vegas? Good luck. Just saying. Anyway, maybe not murder per se, but getting away with murder, not literally, is what I meant to say. I think I said literally murder. No, because they would be in prison. Not literally murder, but getting away with everything, in other words. Anyway, I digress. Miami at Houston. I picked the Dolphins in this game because I apparently don't like to pick games correctly. I don't know what to say in this game.
We've already previewed this game. We've already reviewed this game.
Did we?
Yeah, we reviewed it on Saturday when we previewed the other team.
Okay, well, I got off to an 0-1 start. I still think the Dolphins suck. Anyway, they need to play better. All right, Philadelphia at Jacksonville, the London game. Look, there's not much to say here. The Jaguars looked terrible. The Eagles looked determined. The Jaguars looked disgruntled. The Eagles looked focused, and the Jaguars looked like a train wreck. So at the end of the day, I watched a little bit of this game, but it wasn't close. Even though the score might have been close at some points, if you watch the game, Jacksonville really never had a chance.
Yeah, Philly was just too much in this game. Wentz came to play. The Jaguar defense didn't. Told you Ertz would have a big day, and he did. I really don't know what else to say about this game except Doug Marrone needs to really right the ship for the Jaguars, because if they keep going down this path, I mean, there's no coming back from it. The Jaguars just need to find out, if they want to play this year and what they want to play for, because they're making last season look like a fluke.
Well, and I think a part of it for me, Eric, is, and I actually feel this way about Philly too. I'm not sold on Philly after this game, but it kind of feels like the Jaguars are complacent with last season.
I could see that, but I also think Bortles is hurting them more than helping them, like he was helping them last season. I mean,
he got paid.
How much longer can you keep trotting Bortles out there, really? And I know we signed a contract extension, but
that's just it. You're stuck with him now.
Sometimes you just gotta cut bait, though.
Yeah, but that kind of money, and then who are you going to sign for that kind of money?
Yeah, I get it.
Here's what I think. If I'm Jacksonville's owner, I tell Doug Marrone, you've gotten how long did Bortles sign for? 3 years?
I want to say like 5.
Okay. I would find out where on that salary it becomes friendly for Jacksonville to cut him. I can't imagine it would be all 5 years they're stuck with him. But I would tell Marrone, you've got until this is no longer cap friendly or cap unfriendly to figure this out with Bortles, or you're gone. Because if you can't figure this out with Bortles, I'm going to bring in me a new coach and a new quarterback to figure this out. I let Marrone know you're sinking or swimming with Bortles as your quarterback, because you're on the hook for that kind of money. Denver at Kansas City. This game was better than I expected it to be. I actually thought Denver hung tough. I hate to tell Chief Nation out there, but this is the second time you played Denver, once at home, once on the road. If you can't quite figure out this offense, wait till you get a load of Los Angeles in a few weeks. The Rams don't exactly have Case Keenum under center throwing to nobody, and a disinterested wide receiver and no running game. You're going to have your hands full defensively. You're giving up 20 points. What was it? 23 points? 27 points? Whatever it was against Denver. I'm more and more concerned about Kansas City's defense. I'll never be concerned about their offense. But this league, contrary to it's still about winning on defense. You can't just outscore everybody and expect to win. So, I don't know. I mean, what's your take on this game, E? Because I thought Kansas City played great, but defensively, to me, there's still a major question mark. And with the Rams just a few weeks away, this is going to become more and more of a concern for Kansas City.
Well, the defense is going to give up points. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not concerned with the Chiefs' defense against the Broncos. I mean, they only gave up 9 points in the second half against Denver. Yes, you played 4 quarters, I get it, but the game was 30-14 after 3 quarters. So the Broncos, came back and put up 9 points in the second half. Lindsey had a good game. Demaryius Thomas, and we'll get into this, he played his last game in a Denver Broncos uniform in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But, the Denver defense was more to blame on this game, because, when Kareem Hunt is going through a pile and jumping over defenders and you still can't bring them down, you have bigger problems.
Yeah.
Kansas City is going to outscore whatever they give up on defense. They've done that except for one game, and that's because they kicked field goals instead of went for touchdowns. In a game that they needed to do, in a game that they're going to need to do the same thing, in a couple of weeks when they play the Rams in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Chiefs, I'm not worried about their defense until I start worrying about their offense. Because if they place a team that's going to stop them wholeheartedly, their offense, and Patrick Mahomes is going to have 200 yards, 2 picks, and only 1 touchdown, and Kelsey and Hunt and Hill aren't getting involved, then I'll be worried about their offense because their defense won't be able to pick up unless they get Eric Berry and Justin Houston back. It doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon.
No.
So that's why I'm not too worried about the Chiefs' defense. But their offense, still great to watch. I mean, you don't even have to be a Chiefs fan to appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah. Cleveland at Pittsburgh. This was not a surprise to me or you. We both expected Pittsburgh to roll. They rolled. I think the biggest news so far this week is there's still no Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, no Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon didn't want to be traded, so he, at the earliest, he wasn't going to sign his tender before the trade deadline, so Pittsburgh could trade him. So Le'Veon guaranteeing himself to be in Pittsburgh whenever he does decide to show up. And rumor has it that he will come back to the Steelers after their Thursday night game a week from now when they play Carolina. So we'll see. That's the latest that he can sign his franchise tender, with still having availability to be a free agent next year.
Or do you think he holds out and forces Pittsburgh to franchise tag him again?
Pittsburgh won't franchise him again.
Exactly. So he's a free agent.
Absolutely not.
So he's a free agent either way.
But he won't accrue the free agency, so he'd still be under Pittsburgh's umbrella.
Well, no, that's the whole point of the franchise tag, is to keep him for one more year. If he never signed it and doesn't play, and they're not going to offer him again,
he's been losing out. He's losing out on big time money now. He's already losing. If he doesn't sign at all this year for any reason, he loses $15 million.
I understand that, but then he also would be available for anybody to pick him up.
I'm not sure how the rules are for that. I know that he's got to sign by after the Pittsburgh Carolina game to accrue that year to get to free agency. So I'd have to look that up and research it, but I know that he wouldn't be able to freely sign with anybody else if he didn't sign his franchise tender this whole year.
I mean, if I don't sign a contract, I'm not your property. I'm free to do what I want.
They still technically hold their rights.
Yeah, except when the contract runs out. That's why they did the franchise tag, to extend him out 1 year only. That's where I'm confused.
Yeah, like I said, I'd have to see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, we're not Ian Rappaport here, guys. We don't know how this works, but we may be totally wrong. I may be totally right. Eric may be totally wrong. Eric may be totally right. I may be totally wrong. We may be somewhere in between. We're not Ian Rappaport and them, but I can't imagine. I thought that was the whole purpose of a franchise tag, but maybe I'm wrong. It's so you keep a guy for 1 more year rather than signing him to a long-term deal, giving him the league minimum for the position or the league average for the position, and saving money that way. But I don't know. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that. Look, there's not a lot to say here. Pittsburgh dominated, and Cleveland looked like garbage, so I'm not even going to give it credence. If you're a Browns fan, there was some good news this week. They fired Hugh Jackson. Finally.
Yeah, they did. It's funny because the last that's now 6 head coaches in a row that have been fired after the 7th game against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right. So I think at some point, I think the Browns need to figure this thing out, because the fans are just, they've been through a lot. Washington at New York. This game impressed me.
Hold on. One
Oh yeah.
Hugh Jackson is gone.
Yeah, that they would turn it around.
And I wholeheartedly believe it. Look for the Browns in 2 years to be very competitive. However, they also fired Todd Haley, which was smart. They gave the interim position to
Greg Williams.
And this really surprised me. And please, if you can figure out why. But do you remember the quarterback for the Cardinals, Ryan Lindley?
Oh, my God. Yeah?
Okay. So Ryan Lindley, who played quarterback, is the running backs coach for the Cleveland Browns. Guys, I cannot make this stuff up. How is a quarterback, a former quarterback, a running back coach? That's Cleveland for you.
I'm telling you, man,
Unless I'm completely missing something. I've never heard of a different position player once he's done being a completely different positional coach. Oh yeah, I'm a Hall of Fame running back. I'm gonna be the defensive backs coach.
I mean, to me, it blows my... Dude, I'm telling you, the NFL is so incestual. It's borderline Arkansas and disgusting. I don't understand why this league is so incestual. That they will only sleep with their own and bring their own in. And that's proof exhibit A right there. I digress. Let me get to the Redskin game because I'm just going to get angry if I listen to this. Look, the Redskins at the Giants. This game might have been 20-13, but it was 20-6. The Giants scored a garbage touchdown at the end of the game. Washington dominated from beginning to end. They shut Saquon Barkley down. By and large, they held OBJ down most of the game. Shepard burned him a little bit. This Redskins team scares me. And with their addition that they picked up, and I'm going to talk about it now, Clinton Dix, in my opinion, the Redskins have every bit of as good of a secondary as the Rams do. And the Rams are really strong in all four positions. The Redskins are really strong at 3 of the 4 positions, but I like the platoon defensive backs that they have at the nickel position. So if you actually go 5 deep, I think the Redskins are just as good as the Rams. If you go just the starting 4 in the secondary, I think the Rams have a slight edge. But you've got DJ Swearinger, Clinton Dix, and Josh Norman. That's the no-fly zone right there. There's no throwing on that defense. Clinton Dix and DJ Swearinger lead the league in the last 2 years in interceptions with 11 each. So now they're both in the same backfield playing safety. This is only going to help the Washington Redskins this week against Atlanta. And you could tell that the Redskins are all in to win. I like that Adrian Peterson is there. He solidifies the running game. And I guess maybe, you could tell me if I'm unfair for saying this, Eric, but maybe this is the difference between Alex Smith and Kirk Cousins. Is Alex Smith beats the teams you're supposed to beat rather than have that WTF and lose the game moment. Am I wrong?
Alex Smith in Kansas City did have that WT moment, but look at his head coach. And I think he downgraded from head coach.
Oh, for
Kansas
sure.
City to,
I don't disagree.
Washington.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Plus, he had so many more weapons in Kansas City than he has in Washington because Washington weapons can't even stay healthy on the field for more than 2 plays.
I know. Which I don't understand why they won't fire their strength and conditioning coach because that's his fault. I'm sorry, that's his fault. Have a better in-season program for crying out loud. But look, the Redskins won again. I mean, this was a game I was half expecting them to lose. I picked them, but I was ready to concede this game.
Pat on the back, 20-13, you called it. You also called right at the end of your preview for the game Peterson getting a touchdown catch. He had a 7-yard touchdown catch, and of course, I'm waiting for your call, and within 5 seconds, my phone's ringing. And I said Peterson would have 125 yards. He went for 149.
Yeah.
And I mean, Peterson's running hard. He seems like he's rejuvenated. There's something different between running in the desert and running in Washington. They want to utilize him.
That's just it. It's Eric. It's carries. That's the difference. He's getting the ball more.
Absolutely. And don't look down, but the Redskins have won 3 in a row. They are 5-2. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
They only have one winning record left.
They have, by my count, they have 7 more winnable games.
And there's only one team with a winning record in that the rest of the season. There's only one team that's 500 or better the rest of the way.
Yep, that's the Texans.
Yep, Houston. So, it'll be interesting, man. It'll be interesting. So, what was your take on the game?
Something else that's really stood out to me for Washington is their defense. They held Barkley, they held Elliott, they held McCaffrey all under 100 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
Not easy to do.
No.
I mean, but when you have a good defense usually rise above and they find a way to stop guys. And Washington has the talent on the defensive side of the ball to do that. And don't look now, but the Hogs are going to be coming out really quickly.
They keep running the rock like they're doing. I agree, man.
That's
it's
right.
Awesome to watch.
That's right.
All right. The next one up, Seattle at Detroit. Look, I told you this was going to be an upset pick, which means I did not agree with the experts in that this game was a winnable game for Detroit. When you say a team's going to pull an upset, it's because you believe the other team is, for all intents and purposes, should win the game. Now, I'm not saying that I was right here, but I do think it's funny that my upset pick is one that the experts picked the Lions to win by 3. The only reason I picked Detroit is I believe that they were going to run the ball more consistently. I felt like they were going to utilize the passing game and burn the Seahawks secondary, much like what's happened all year long. But Matthew Stafford looked like crap. They didn't hardly run the ball, and they couldn't stop the run, which has been Detroit's problem all year long. So I love how everyone's like, oh, the Seahawks are 4-3. They're going to the Super Bowl again. It's like, really? Really? They beat the Detroit Lions. They ran the ball against the Lions. Everyone runs the ball against the Lions. Wait till Todd Gurley plays the Lions. I'll get 100 fantasy points from Todd Gurley alone in that game. I mean,
He'll probably just run Malcolm Brown.
probably at this point. Look, I like what Seattle did. They went in, the better team, and they beat a weaker opponent, in my opinion. Obviously not the experts. The experts thought the Lions were the better team. They weren't. Seattle was. Detroit needed this win to really signify what they want to do and become this year, and they didn't do it. And Seattle went in, and they smacked them around. So I tip my hat to the Seahawks. I tip my hat to Hawks, to the 12th man or whatever you want to call them. The Seahawks look good in this game, and Detroit looked like the Lions. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Chris Carson had another 100-yard game in the Russell Wilson to Tyler Lockett combination. Is really working for them right now. Their defense came to play. Their defense played a lot better in this game than back in the 05 Super Bowl, but that's a different story. Anyways, the Seahawks are 4-3. There's still about 3 teams ahead of them for that second wild card spot. So I'm not looking past them, but I'm also not too worried about them right now.
I wouldn't be.
They played a good game. They lost some games early on that they might have been played different now, but they're beating teams that I guess you could say they are beaten, or they should be, and the Lions are one of those. So,
and that's what playoff teams do. They win the games they're supposed to win, and they play well and win a couple of the games that maybe they're not supposed to win. Speaking of winning games you're supposed to win but not making it look easy, Fitzmagic is back. Guys, I don't understand this. First of all, I'll get to Cincinnati in a minute. Oh, and by the way, the Lions traded Golden Tate, but I'm only going to talk about the trades to the teams that actually got the players and how that's going to help them, like I did Clinton Dix. And if I remember correctly, really quick, I'm going to touch on Houston after this game. I think that's the only other team that actually, we talked about Philly and didn't touch on that trade. So I'll go back a little bit on that one too. And I think that was the only other ones, and then the rest of them are down here on the bottom end. When are we going to admit that Winston is a bust? I agree with Deion Sanders. When are we going to acknowledge that Winston is the same Winston he's always been, and it's not a very good quarterback? I didn't think he was worthy of a top 2 pick. I didn't think he was worthy, to be honest with you, I didn't think he was a first-round talent. I really didn't. I never thought he was a first-round talent. I thought if you got this kid in the second round, back end of the second round, early third round, maybe you could groom him and fine-tune him and get something out of him, but he's not a first-round talent. And, I let the fruit bear before I made that statement, like I always do. I gave it the 3 years. But there's 3 reasons. Guys, look, picking a quarterback is not hard. It's not hard. You need 3 things from a starting quarterback. Write this down, because if you follow this methodology and you're a coach, you will have a great starting quarterback every year, and you'll be the number 1 coach in NFL history in drafting quarterbacks. You need 3 things. Number 1 is charisma. The guy walks in the room and his privates have already been in the room for 5 minutes. That's the kind of guy you need. Somebody that commands the room. Okay? When he talks, it's E.F. Hutton. Everybody listens. And they respect him, and he has a connection with the guys. That's number 1. Because if they're not willing to play for him, they're not going to play for him. Number 2, accuracy. You must be an accurate passer in the NFL. If you're not, you don't stand a snowball's chance in Hades. If I hear one more person tell me that arm strength is the most important thing from a quarterback, I'm going to slap them in the mouth until their taste buds fall out of their ear. I'm done with it. You don't make it to the NFL if you're a weak-armed, weak-noodle douche canoe. It doesn't happen. Name me one quarterback that's a starter in the NFL that doesn't have a strong arm. It's the dumbest statement in the world. Where you want to look for arm strength, if that's what you want to call it, it's the ability to cut it through the wind. I don't care about a 10-yard out on the sidelines. It's real simple, folks. If he don't make that throw, he don't get drafted by no one. What you look for is, can he cut it on a rope in the wind? Can he get it through, a tight window on a zip line? But that's accuracy. So you want arm strength of a different kind. Those are the 3 things you look for. The ability to throw the ball in bad weather, because you're going to have it, no matter where you play, dome or no dome. Accuracy and charisma. That's it. You don't need anything else. Mobility, that's a plus depending on the system you want to run. Pocket passer, that's a plus depending on the system you want to run. Smarts and intelligence, it's a given, but it's not necessarily. And what I mean by that is, he doesn't need to be, first of all, anyone in the pros is football smart, right? I'm under center. I recognize a cover 2, right? That's just studying film. I can make a guy football smart, right? I can't teach charisma. I can't teach accuracy. I can't teach arm strength, or I should say the ability to cut the ball in bad weather. I can't teach those skills. I can make you smarter. So you want those 3 things. Winston doesn't have any of them. The guy's eating his fingers saying, we're going to eat a W today. The guys are looking at him like he's a friggin' lunatic. You got Deshaun Jackson that's like, as long as this jackwagon is quarterback, get me the frig out of here, put Fitzpatrick in, or put me on a bus to another city. That tells you all you need to know about Winston's charisma. Accuracy? He's real accurate. He could throw the ball with the best of them to the other team. The Bengals he was phenomenally accurate throwing the ball to Cincinnati Bengals all day long. Arm strength, like I said, throw that out the window, but the ability to play in bad weather, he can't play in good weather, let alone bad weather. But he's a first-round pick. So, like Winston's career, I rest my case. This is over. Getting to the Bengals, now that's a football team that I was less impressed with the win than I was with the Buccaneers and Fitzpatrick coming back with a loss. The Bengals right now are a wild card, one-and-done team, and I fear Marvin Lewis's career is over. Whether he retires or they fire him, this is his last year in Cincinnati because this isn't happening. And unless they can figure out the method to get those 28-6 leads and turn them into 42-13 wins, there's a problem down in Cincinnati. And the problem isn't Andy Dalton. The problem's on defense. The problem's on the coordinator, and I like Blazer. Where did the running game go when they had the big lead? I don't know. It disappeared. And they were running the ball phenomenally prior to that. So there's a halftime adjustment there that didn't go right. So I'm concerned with the Bengals after this win. Pumped for Fitzpatrick. I don't think he's a great quarterback. He's definitely a good backup and worthy of being in the league, to be sure. And he's certainly better than Winston. Your takey.
Yeah, I was so close to calling an upset pick of the week on this one. I think that if Fitzpatrick started this game, Buccaneers win.
Oh, yeah.
Cincinnati pulled it out in the end with their kicker. Got him down. Tampa Bay is not one of the worst pass defenses. So, of course, it was going to be, they'll passing all day. But it wasn't even to A.J. Green too much. Tyler Boyd had a huge game.
Yeah, he did.
Huge game. 138 yards and a touchdown. Green had 76 yards and a touchdown, but he also injured his foot in the game, so he's been spotted in a walking boot this week. But they got a bye week, so he can easily rest up. The Buccaneers on offense, I mean, when Winston's in there, they scored 16 points. Put Fitzpatrick in, and they scored 18 in one quarter.
Yeah.
And he had a nice 2-point conversion pass to Chris Godwin, who actually caught it low and was falling backwards. But, the Bengals needed this game. Pittsburgh's playing really good ball. Baltimore's playing so-so ball. Cincinnati really needed this win to keep up in the AFC North. They went from division favorites to possibly wild card.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how they respond when they come out of their bye week, because I think their bye week is gonna do good for them what they need, because they really need to regroup, focus on their defense, make sure their offense is still humming, because if they utilize Mixon and Green and Boyd, they're scary on offense. They just need to show up the defense.
So I want to get back to a couple things here. So with Houston picking up Demaryius Thomas, there's been a lot of talk about, oh, this is great for Houston. I've even heard some people say, oh, this isn't so great for Houston. Demaryius Thomas is doesn't do the things that Will Fuller can do. I don't know. I mean, I tend to disagree with that. I think, look, anytime you get a real solid number 2, borderline number 1 wide receiver, that only helps your football team. I saw that with the Rams. So I don't know why the negativity towards Demaryius Thomas. I know he's been playing disinterested football, but when Case Keenum's your big high-profile dollar QB that you bring in, I'm going to play disinterested as a fan. I can't imagine a player having to go through that crap every day of the week in practice and listening to Case Keenum open his face hole and tell me about, how the game's going to go and try to motivate me when I'm looking at him going, I see your stats, bro. You're garbage. You went 4-12 with the Rams, and you had basically the same team Goff has right now, minus maybe Brandon Cooks on offense and Kupp. That's it. Obviously Whitworth and Sullivan, but You get my point. So I don't know. I think the trade benefits Houston tremendously. Do you agree?
Well, they are right in one aspect. Yes, Demaryius Thomas cannot do what Will Fuller does, unless Demaryius Thomas decides to tear his ACL. Will Fuller's a slot receiver. Demaryius Thomas has never been a slot receiver. Demaryius Thomas is outside. Let's go one-on-one, and I'm going to beat you the ball. Yeah, he's dropped some easy passes. He catches some of the bad passes and only gets a couple yards. But, they need a wide receiver that's never done that before. Okay? Here's what Demaryius Thomas brings to the Houston Texans. Non-double coverage to DeAndre Hopkins. And
right.
DeAndre Hopkins will thank him tremendously, saying, thank you for taking up some slack, and now we got Kiki Cutie who can play the slot and move the chains and maybe even break one now and then, but now I don't have to face, over-the-top coverage. So thank you, Demaryius Thomas, and thank you, Houston, for going out and getting a wide receiver that we need. Now, here's what else it does to Houston. They took on the remaining $4 million of his salary this year, and they're on the hook for $14 million next year. There is no way in heck that Denver was ever going to pay that $14 million salary. So you might as well get him for the rest of the year this year and implement him in the offense, and hopefully, utilize the 4 wide receiver set next year, because they could be even more dangerous in 2019 than they are in 2018.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question.
It just goes to show me, before you get to your question, it just goes to show me that Houston's going for it this year.
Oh, for sure. I mean, their quarterback's healthy, and he's starting to get right, and that defense is starting to play strong. Why wouldn't they? Especially when they look at their division and go, we're already a game and a half up. Let's go. Let's do this.
Right.
The other one that I thought was interesting was Golden Tate to Philly. Everyone's talking about this. Oh, this is such a great move. This is such a great move. I don't think it's a great move at all. Philadelphia still can't run the football. Now, I'm not scared of Aguilar. I'm scared of Golden Tate, but I'll double team him. I'll take my chances with the other wide receivers. I still know one thing. Philly can't run the ball, so I don't need to put anybody in the box. I know Wentz is a great quarterback, but I'm more worried about Golden Tate and Ertz than I am anybody else on that football team right now. And I could game plan to cover those two. Alshon Jeffrey, not a threat. Aguilar, not a threat. Golden Tate is a threat. And I don't even know if Golden Tate's going to be on the field the whole time. Are they going to triangle Alshon Jeffrey and Aguilar and bring Golden Tate into the slot? I don't know. Does it help Philly? Sure. It's going to help against bad passing teams. I don't know that it's going to help against Washington. I don't know that it's going to help against the Rams. I don't even necessarily know if it's going to help against Dallas. So, I don't know. I mean, everyone's really hyped about this move, but I looked at Philly and said they have offensive line issues and they have running back issues. And they addressed neither. So, I'm chalking this one up to a C- as far as a grade. I do think it's going to get Philly maybe a couple more wins. If we're looking at a 7-win team, they may be a 9-win team, but I don't think it's enough to make a wild card. I don't know. What's your take, E?
Love the trade. Love the trade. I'll tell you why. It gets Golden Tate on the NFC North.
Well, from a Bears fan's perspective.
From a Bears fan perspective, that's right. That's what I looked at first, and I was like, bye-bye, Golden Tate. You play well. You're a good receiver, but time for you to go, and I'm glad you did. He wasn't going to be back in Detroit. We all know that now, obviously.
Yeah.
But I love it for Philly. It adds another dimension that they didn't have. This is still going to make Zach Ertz one of the best tight ends in there, because now it's one less coverage he has to see towards his side. Golden Tate will, I would say, 95% be in the slot for Philly. The one person that it hurts the most is going to be Aguilar. I mean, even though Aguilar's only getting a few targets a game and a couple catches a game, he broke He broke for 90 yards a few weeks ago. I believe it was against the Giants on some busted coverages, but I think it hurts him the most.
Oh, yeah.
Wentz just has another weapon, and when you give a good quarterback, an extra weapon, what can you say? I mean, that just makes them more dangerous.
I think it makes them more one-dimensional.
Well, I think adding Golden Tate will actually open up the run game for them. Whether it's Clement, if Clement gets going, Philly's got a good offense going. If it's Smallwood's better when he is catching it out of the backfield.
Do you think either of those running backs are going to run the ball against the Redskins for over 100 yards?
No, they don't need them to.
Yeah, they do, because they can
go
nickel, double team with the safety Golden Tate, and be fine.
We'll see. I mean, right now Washington is better than Philly, and I would still pick Washington whether it's in Philly or in Washington.
Agreed. And I'm looking at trade deadline moves when you're 4-5 or whatever Philly's record is, 4-4. You've got to make a move that's going to better your football team, not keep you status quo. And right now, when I say better your football team, obviously when you bring in talent, you're going to better your football team. But I mean, do you shore up an in-season weakness that is going to plague you all year long? And Philly didn't do that. But I'll fully admit, I'm in the minority on this.
Running backs and offensive linemen aren't typically available for trade during the season.
You're telling me
this is one of the craziest trade deadlines that I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, there's been a lot of moves.
Absolutely.
Getting back to the games, the Jets at the Bears, man, you called this one. You said the Bears didn't need to necessarily play Khalil Mack. I don't know if he played. I didn't watch this game.
Khalil Mack did not play. Allen Robinson did not play. I felt that the Bears could rest those two guys, and I also feel like they could rest those two guys the following game as well.
Well, yeah, and I think if you have the Bears starting defense, you go ahead and start them, even without that, without Khalil Mack against Buffalo.
Yeah, and we'll get to the preview in that game in our next show, but there weren't any turnovers. There were very few sacks. Trubisky did what he had to do to again put up some numbers. Hit a nice 70-yard screen pass on an all-out blitz to Tariq Coleman, which was taken to the house, which was gorgeous. He was untouched. Jordan Howard got into the scoring. He had 81 yards and a touchdown. Trubisky still overthrew a couple of guys, and he wasn't completely on with his accuracy, but you know what? He made up for it in other ways. The Bears defense, stopped the Jets when they had to. The Bears never trailed in this game. It seemed closer at 24-10 than it ever was, but if you actually watch the game, the Jets were really never in it. They are lacking a lot of weapons that are hurt, which include Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa. I think it's a bit different game if those two guys.
Oh yeah.
Then you put Kirsten in the slot. You got Herndon going down the middle, and then that opens up gaps for Isaiah Crowell, and there was no Bilal Powell in this game. So I mean, you're looking at 3-4 guys who could do some damage, on offense. And
I think the Jets.
The Bears were able to exploit and keep everything in front of them. The Jets scored a late touchdown in the fourth quarter on a 16-yard pass to Nick Herndon, but again, it was really never close.
I think the Jets are on the right path.
I definitely give the Bears credit for saying, hey, you know what? We have this game. We just have to go out and execute. Don't let their record, the guys that they're missing, fool you. They could surprise you, but let's take care of our business, and then we can go. We can retake first place.
Yeah, I like this game. I thought the Bears played really well. I thought defensively, I didn't watch the entire game. I did watch parts of it. I was slipping back and forth. I want to see how the Bears defense played in particular, and I like that they did a really thorough job of tackling. And it's what I'm noticing the Bears are really good at this year is there's not a lot of missed tackles. They get on you, they kind of stick on you, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's the Dolphins.
Well, okay. I didn't say they were perfect at it. Okay, I can give you 6 games where they did it just fine if you want to play that game. All right? Look, here's the bottom line. The Bears this year, they feel like a playoff team. They feel like that surprise playoff team that nobody saw coming except for maybe me and you. And not even me and you saw it coming.
Kind of like the Rams last year?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Although we weren't as sold on the Bears as we were on the Rams last year, but we knew the Bears were going to be a better football team, and I actually had them having a better record than you did, if I remember correctly.
I want them to make the playoffs, obviously, as a fan, but I also want to do it for another selfish reason, and that's, for the Raiders on the Bears' first-round pick. So I would love to see that be as low as possible.
Yeah, right? Make it all the way to the championship game, baby. Wouldn't that be awesome? Rams win 24-0. All right, I digress.
Oh, shut up.
All right, look.
Wait. Is this a cold day at the Coliseum?
Oh, very funny. Yeah, it snows for the first time ever.
Nice.
And let's just say that our number 58, Corey Littleton, picks up a fumble at Jordan Howard has and takes it to the house to win it 24-0 in the snow. But trust me, they didn't eat the yellow snow because that's no good. All right. Baltimore at Carolina. Baltimore picked themselves up Ty. Didn't they? Didn't they pick up the Packers wide receiver? Ty whatever. What's it? Montgomery?
Montgomery, running back, wide receiver, yes.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting move by Baltimore. I thought it was an angry trade by Green Bay. When you trade a guy a day after he fumbles, when supposedly the rumor is you told him not to take it, or you told him to take a knee, and he doesn't take a knee, and he threw a temper tantrum on the sideline. I watched the game. They didn't show any of the temper tantrum. So if it happened, they did it off camera and decided not to show it, which is curious. I'll get to later. I felt, and I'll get to this with the Ram game, I felt like his momentum may have been carrying him out of the end zone to begin with, considering where he caught the ball. If he had taken any, it might have been right on the goal line, which could have been a reviewable play to see if he had actually knelt at the 1 or if he knelt in the end zone. So I don't necessarily think it was... I don't necessarily know if that was his fault, but when you trade a guy a week after he fumbles the ball and all of that's going on for a 7th-round pick...
Day after.
Sorry, what'd I say? Week? Day after.
Yeah,
that's an angry trade. That's an angry trade. There's no way around it. You were determined on the plane ride that he was gone before the deadline. And I don't know if that was smart, because I don't think the Packers got better, and I certainly would think you could get more than a 7th-round pick for Ty Montgomery. But, hey, benefits the Ravens, right?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of role they have for him there. He was a hybrid running back, wide receiver. This just opens up more carries and solidifies Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams as the 2 running backs there. They don't have to worry about Ty Montgomery, but it does leave a hole on Green Bay's special teams. Does it help Baltimore? It remains to be seen. It gives them another weapon depending on if they want to utilize him as a running back or as a wide receiver. But with 2 running backs, in Alex Collins and Javorius Allen, I don't see him getting many carries. I see him mainly playing special teams.
Here's what I see.
With John Brown on the outside and Crabtree also, and then you got Hayden Hurst and Max Williams. There's not going to be a lot of playing time for Ty Montgomery.
Here's what I think. I think you put him in the slot, right? And I'll tell you why. I think he's a big guy, so he's a good target against nickel corners. But you could put him on the jet sweep, and there's a lot of different ways you can run a jet sweep. It doesn't just have to be right by the line of scrimmage. You can run him behind the quarterback with a lead block. You could put him in motion from the slot to the backfield and hand him the football with one of those running backs in ace formation being the lead blocker. There's a lot of ways you can utilize Ty Montgomery. He's a guy I would love to have on the Rams because the way the Rams tried to use Tavon Austin is exactly the way you can use Ty Montgomery. But make no mistake about it, in my opinion, Eric, he's more of a receiver than he is a running back. He just has that running back capability. You could use him as a 4th running back in case you have a lot of injuries. And you can utilize him as a slot receiver where you can use him on the jet sweep and different variations of that. I don't think it's a bad pickup at all for Baltimore. And for a 7th-round pick, who cares if he doesn't get a lot of playing time?
I never said it was a bad pickup. I'm just curious how they're going to use him.
Yeah, well, that's how I would use him. We'll see if John Harbaugh does it. Speaking of the Ravens, their game against Carolina, I thought was – look, if you watch the game, you know what I'm saying is true. It was every bit as good of a game as we said it was going to be. I know the score might not have indicated it, but that game was 27-21 late. A great play fake by Cam Newton, walks in untouched for a touchdown. They had an unbelievably wacky touchdown go their way earlier in the game. I felt like this was actually a really well-played game by both teams. And this is where I'm going to tip my hat right now if you're a Carolina Panther fan. Look, your team doesn't really lose at home, like ever. And it's the one thing I will give Cam Newton. I think he is one of the best home field quarterbacks in football. I'd be curious, Eric, and you don't have to do this for this show, but I do want it for the next show. And maybe, because I'm going to be doing research on some other things, if you don't mind doing research on what Cam Newton's home record actually is. I'm probably looking it up right now. But I think it's pretty impressive. So, and he did it again. And, Baltimore's no slouch. They're 4-4, and I think they're a good 4-4. I don't think they're a bad 4-4 football team. I really don't. And I think they have a good shot at winning next week at home against Pitt. Your take, E.
Paging Dr. Jekyll. Paging Dr. Jekyll. That's seriously Baltimore in a nutshell. Boy, did they get their butts kicked. I'm sorry, but it was more along the lines of the Panthers having their way with them. And McCaffrey had a great game. Olsen had a great game, and I was just wondering when Flacco was actually going to start playing the game. And
he struggled.
The Ravens got on the board first with a nice touchdown run by Collins, and then after that, they were done.
Yeah,
they were.
Well, they fell behind 21-7, and they came back when it was 27-21. They outscored them 14-6. And then Cam scores that touchdown to put them up. Where I think they missed the extra point and went up 33-21, and later kicked a field goal, and I think that was the final score. So I felt like Baltimore did a nice job of coming back.
I don't really know if they came back.
No, it's fair. At no point were they threatening to take the lead after the first touchdown, if that's what you mean, I agree. But the game wasn't in doubt until that Cam Newton touchdown.
Right.
Indianapolis at Oakland. Wow. Just every time I looked up, Max scored a touchdown. I'm like, oh, Max scored. Okay, cool. I should have gotten him. I lost him out on free agency, even though I spent all my money on him. Somebody's having it. Oh, he got another touchdown. That's another touchdown. How many freaking touchdowns did he score? 3 or 2? 2. Yeah. Friggin' ridiculous. And he had over 100 yards rushing, didn't he?
Really quick, I'm going to go back to Cam Newton.
Uh-huh.
I love Pro Football or FootballReference.com if you guys ever want to take a look.
Yeah.
Cam Newton at home, 38-20.
That's a good record, man.
On the road, 29-28-1.
He's so much better at home. He really is.
He is.
Yeah, I thought his home record was phenomenal because every time Carolina seems to win when I'm really watching them, it's a home game. Twice this year, Cincinnati and now Baltimore are examples of that.
And here's something that's really scary. He is one game below 500 in the month of September and October. But man, when it turns to November and December, so the last half of the season, he is ridiculous. 17-9 in November, 22-8 in December.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it makes sense with his running style. He becomes a big, scary running back in the cold weather.
Absolutely.
And he's not a bad cornerback either. Look, I don't like Cam Newton personally as a person. I can't say that. I don't know him as a person. I don't like the fact that he mopes and sobs when he loses and he's a poor sport. I hate that about Cam Newton. But as an athlete, as a quarterback, he's unbelievable. And you'd be foolish to say otherwise. As a person, I would like to think that Cam Newton's a pretty outstanding guy, considering all the times he gives footballs to little kids and what he does for the community of Carolina. So I can't say he's a bad person. I just don't like the moping around that he does when they lose and how much of a poor sport he is when they lose or when they're losing. His body language is atrocious when they're losing, and I hate that because I expect more from a quarterback. Anyway, getting back to Indy and Oakland, the Raiders looked horrific. I don't know that Oakland wins another game this year. And I don't know that Indy is out of this thing. If the Colts are going to run the ball with that quarterback, and they're going to play a little bit of defense, then they just need to play a little bit better defense because 28 points against the Raiders is like 52 against New England. But if they could shore up that defense a little bit more, I think Indianapolis could be a real they could make a real push for 500. I'm not saying make the playoffs, but I think they can make a real push at 8-8.
Do you realize that this game was 28-21 Raiders going into the fourth quarter?
I know.
Indy just took them to the woodshed in the fourth. And I told you that it was going to be a blowout. And I don't know if you consider 14 points a blowout per se, but
42-28? Yeah.
Quarter.
No, it's a blowout. 42-28 is a blowout, especially considering that they outscored them 21-zip in the second half. Yes, I consider.
Right.
Let me rephrase that.
21 zip in the fourth quarter.
That's what I said. Look, I don't necessarily consider 14 points a blowout. I don't consider that a blowout. I consider that when you beat a team by 10 to 14 to 16 points, that's a good victory. You get 17 points or more, that's a 3-score game. Now you're talking blowout. But I'll still give it to you, Eric, because when you watch this fourth quarter, they blew them out in the fourth quarter. And it kind of had that feeling when the game was over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I told you, the Colts had to do what they needed to do, and this could start them on a run toward Houston. I'm not saying they're going to catch Houston, but it could put them on the path getting closer
and make those games relevant. San Francisco and Arizona, I mean, what are we going to say here? Two bad football teams. Arizona won at home. I told you the Cardinals were going to beat the 49ers. I don't know that the Cardinals beat another team this year. They may go 2-14, and for the second time in franchise history, they go 2-14 with 2 victories being against the same team, and that team being the 49ers. They did this once before. The Niners did this to the Rams last year or a few years ago, 2016. So I don't know that there's much to say here. Larry gets a big touchdown. Part of me wants Larry Fitzgerald to retire at the end of this year because I don't want him to suffer any more with this organization than he's already going to have to. And I think as long as this guy's the head coach in Arizona, I think the Cardinals are a friggin' joke. They're the punchline to every comedic line or every joke that one wants to start has to do with football. And I think that Josh Rosen, if that's your future, Larry, retire. Because they're going to be invested in this quarterback for 5 to 6 years and either get traded or retire because I don't want to see him go through this. Big win for the Cardinals, great comeback win. But the fact that you had to come back and beat the 49ers tells you everything you need to know with how bad these teams are.
One thing I don't want to see, and that's Larry Fitzgerald in another uniform. It seriously won't seem right. I thought the same thing about Jerry Rice, and then he went to Oakland and then Seattle. It just didn't look right. There's just certain uniforms that you wear and you stay with them. Like that's why I'm glad that Brian Urlacher never signed with the team that was pursuing him after the Bears decided not to offer him a contract. I believe that team was the Falcons, if I remember correctly.
Maybe. So Larry Fitzgerald signs a 1-year deal with the Chicago Bears. You're unhappy?
No, but I wonder how much he could really give them still. He's way past his prime.
Yeah.
He's the iconic member of the Arizona community for everything that he's done. He's a great role model.
Oh,
I'm not saying he would. I'm not saying he wouldn't bring that here or anything like that. What I'm saying is he is Arizona Cardinal.
oh no, he is. There's no question.
Okay, and I don't think he would go to another team. The only other team I could really see him going to, and it's two, and only because he has ties to both organizations, Pittsburgh and Minnesota.
Yeah, I was gonna say Minnesota.
But I don't think that he would only sign with the Steelers because that's where he went to school, was Pittsburgh. So I don't see him going anywhere else after this year. I really think he thinks about that. But Leftwich did what he had to do to get the Cardinals into position to win the game, and they relied on Rosen. He got the job done. There's really not much more to say about this game.
Nope.
I mean, there are two bad teams holding up the NFC West, so one of them, their back's going to hurt. So.
Yep. All right. So the Rams against the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to read you some statistics. A-Rod, 18 of 30 for 286 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, a 102.9 quarterback rating. Sacked, I believe, 3 times? 2 times? Sacked 2 times, hurried 5 times. Okay? That's a total of 7 pressures. Okay. Let's go to Jared Goff. 19 of 35, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 111 quarterback rating, sacked 4 times, hurried 11. He had 15 pressures, 8 more than Aaron Rodgers, and he still went down the field and led them on a game-winning drive as time was expiring. Now, he left a lot of time on the clock. We all know about the Ty Montgomery fumble. We'll touch on that in a minute. But if you look at this, at every metrics completion percentage, Jared Goff outperformed Aaron Rodgers. Yards, Jared Goff outperformed Aaron Rodgers. Touchdowns, Jared Goff outperformed Aaron Rodgers. Quarterback rating, Jared Goff outperformed Aaron Rodgers while being under more pressure. Now, by my check, okay, Jared Goff has outperformed Russell Wilson, Phillip Rivers. We're going to throw Rodgers in there. Okay, let's throw Cousins in there, who's having a great year. And is there anybody else that I want to throw in there that I think is worthy? Okay, that's 4 quarterbacks that are supposedly the best in our league. Right? Mahomes hasn't gone against quarterbacks like this. Mahomes didn't outperform Tom Brady. Would you agree with that? They were about equal.
Right.
Jared Goff has outperformed 3 quarterbacks that are perennial playoff quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers has made the playoffs with the Chargers out how many times? Russell Wilson's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, which I told you, I'm not putting Aaron Rodgers in there as one of the greatest of all time, but he certainly is the best of our era, or one of the best of our era. I told you that last week. I'm not going to deny that. I look at this and I go, where's the love for Jared Goff this week? The man, I distinctly remember them saying that they would put pressure on Jared Goff and make Jared Goff beat him because he doesn't believe, this is Chris Carter now, Chris Carter said that he doesn't believe that Jared Goff's mettle has been tested and doesn't believe that he can hold up to that kind of pressure. Well, guess what, Chris? He got that kind of pressure this week, and he responded in classic form. There's no doubt in my mind the MVP of this game, without question, was Jared Goff. It's not even debatable. You could tell me Todd Gurley, and Gurley played great, but Gurley didn't run for 100 yards. This came down to the right arm of Jared Goff. He moved around, he made plays happen, and oh, by the way, he did it without his best friend and number one target that he loves to go to on third down in Cooper Kupp. He hit Cooks when he needed to. There were times he was off. I will not deny it. There, on those incompletions, and there were many of them, because he attempted it 35 times and only completed 19, okay? There were a lot of passes there that looked pretty shoddy. But you know what? There were a lot more that looked good. And I was so impressed with Jared Goff at the conclusion of this game, and I started doing the totals. The quarterbacks he's outperforming this year, and you're going to add Drew Brees to the list after week 9, because I'll tell you right now, I'm going to tell you straight up, go back and watch it. 2016, Jared Goff's rookie year, he outperformed Drew Brees in the Superdome. He was throw for throw, step for step with that quarterback for most of that game. Now, the team let him down in the second half, but Jared Goff went toe-to-toe with him for the first half. So I would argue that the Rams, by the way, for those of you that might have been watching Game Day morning, Good Morning Football, where they said that, or might not, no, I'm sorry. This was on one of the other shows. They were talking about how the Rams have never been to the Superdome. They don't know how to handle this kind of pressure. Are you stupid? Are you stupid? Are you that dumb? Brandon Cooks played in the damn stadium. Let's start there. Okay? Marcus Peters has played in some pretty big-time stadiums as DB. I'm sorry. And you got to make up your mind. Is Seattle the number one home stadium, or is it New Orleans? And oh, by the way, Todd Gurley, Jared Goff, Rob Havenstein, Saffold, Aaron Donald, they've played there before. A lot, actually, to be perfectly honest with you. They're not afraid of it. The Rams own that series against New Orleans. Now, I know what you're thinking, Anthony. Quit talking about New Orleans. We'll get to that next week or later in the next show. We will. But my point is, this is the game I'm talking about. We go in, we play Green Bay, who, oh, by the way, is favored to win, right? That's going to be the Rams' first loss. After our first loss was supposed to be an upset against San Francisco, and prior to that, our first loss was supposed to be against San Diego, and after that, our first loss was supposed to be against Minnesota, and now our first loss was supposed to be against Green Bay. Now our first loss is going to be against New Orleans. I guess the following week, the Rams' first loss is going to be against the next opponent, which you think is Seattle, at home, because, we don't beat Seattle. Then the next loss is going to be Make up your mind. Where's the first loss? Because every time you say it's coming, it's not. And oh, by the way, 16 carries the team to victory when you put it on his shoulders. And when you don't put it on his shoulders, number 30, TG3, is all but happy to gash your defense. Guys, if you haven't figured it out yet, you can't beat this football team. You don't have the answer because they have too much talent at 3 key positions. Interior defensive line, quarterback, and running back. You're not beating them. You're not beating them. And if Aaron Rodgers couldn't beat him, you ain't going to beat him. Now, I know what the thought process is, Eric, and I'm about to turn it over to you because I've gone on a long tirade here, and that is fair. But I will tell you, do I believe that Aaron Rodgers would have led them up the field and kicked the game-winning field goal? I think it was a 50-50 possibility, absolutely. But that wasn't going to be Jared Goff's fault. That wasn't going to be because Aaron Rodgers is just so much better than Jared Goff. And I say 50-50 because the previous drive in which we took the lead, Aaron Donald sacked him on third down, forcing a 3-and-out and getting us the football back when he had an opportunity to close the game, which you were saying prior to the drive that that's Aaron Rodgers' MO. He can beat you and he can close you. Well, he didn't close us, so I'm supposed to believe he was going to beat us? Ty Montgomery, I'm still unsure if his momentum carried him out of the end zone. I don't know if they actually told him to take a knee, but Ramik Wilson made a hell of a play. And the Rams, oh, by the way, they're a complete team. They are great in all 3 phases. And special teams shows up in a multitude of different ways, whether it's kicking 4 field goals by Greg Zuerlein, or it's causing a fumble, or it's blocking a punt, which they damn near did twice, or blocking a field goal, or whatever. The Rams can do it better than anybody else in pro football. Eric, the floor is yours.
Well, talk about a tale of 2 halves, will you?
Right.
So it was 10-8 at the half, and the Rams just looked like they were in quicksand. They couldn't get out of their own way, and they couldn't figure out the Green Bay defense. Blake Martinez was a beast in that first half.
Yeah, he was. He was a beast in the second half, too.
He had 12 total tackles, a sack, and 2 tackles for a loss in the game total. Man, he was everywhere in the first half. Second half, Green Bay's defense, Swiss cheese. Literally. You could march up and down on them. You know, their offense was trying to take a lot of time off the clock in the first half. You know, but the Rams are so good at scoring and getting the ball quickly and just running up and down the field that didn't happen in the first half. They were stymied. Third down was like their kryptonite. Like you just couldn't figure out what was going on with the Rams. Halftime comes along, Rams make adjustments. Seemed like the Packers didn't make an adjustment, or they made an adjustment the wrong way. Gurley went off. He was leading a receiver with 80 yards and a touchdown, 114 yards rushing. And you know what? Credit Gurley for doing the Brian Westbrook. That's what wins games. That's why Gurley is a team player, a we player, and not an I or me player. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Rams right now are 8-0. Because you do not give the ball back. I don't care how much you would go up if it would be 2 scores. You don't give the ball back to the opposition. And Vegas people can cry, and fantasy owners can cry. You know who's walking to the bank? Todd Gurley and the Rams. Mm-hmm. That's what makes the Rams a heck of a team right now.
Yeah.
Because
that was such a selfless play. That was such an amazing, selfless play.
Because you don't know, okay, sure, you go up 9, okay? There's still time on the clock. However, what's not to say that Green Bay doesn't run the ball out and takes it for a score, recovers an onside kick. Chances are remote, or you know, Davante Adams tore up your secondary. He had 133 yards. What's not to say that Aaron Rodgers finds Davante Adams deep down the sideline, and he adds another 70 yards to his total, or 75 yards to his total, and they kick the onside kick and recover it.
Right.
Now,
who's to say they don't block the extra point and take it back to the house and make it a 7-point game?
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And granted, it's harder to recover an onside kick now because of the way the rules are set up, but things can happen. Okay? Anybody remember the miracle of the Meadowlands? That's why they now have the victory formation.
Yeah.
So, listen, you just don't give the ball back or let them have the ball back after you score. You take that knee, you tackle in bounds, you take a couple kneel downs. That's all you have to do.
Hey, I had him on fantasy. It didn't hurt me one bit.
The Rams got it out. Listen, against Seattle, they went for it on 4th and a toenail. Okay? As they should have.
Yep.
That didn't give Seattle the ball back by punting it. The Rams, late in the 4th quarter, I get it. There was a lot more time in the Seattle game than there was in this game against the Packers. Mm-hmm. But you don't get the ball back.
No. So I have 3 questions for you, Eric. And I'm going to ask you this as a player, as a coach, as a fan, to a broadcaster, okay? And I really want you to answer this question truthfully, okay? Don't worry about hurting the Ramillies' feelings here, okay? My first question is, and it's a 2-part question. So the first part of the question is, what did you think of the job Jared Goff did, considering the pressure that he was under? And do you think Jared Goff was the reason the Rams won this game? Or do you think Jared Goff is the reason the Rams won this game? Go with those 2. That's a 2-part, 1 question right there.
Goff made the adjustment to the second half like any good quarterback should. He wasn't getting the right reads in the first half, and you know the Rams were trying to find a rhythm in the first half. They couldn't find it, except on their one lone scoring play. When it came time for the second half, Goff was a lot more comfortable, and he exuded a lot more confidence. Was Goff the reason why the Rams won? A, it's a team effort, but B, they relied on Gurley as much as they could, and Gurley took over when they needed it. Yes, Goff was able to get him passes. That's why he led the team in receiving. but you also lean on your best players. And some days that's Goff, some days that's Gurley, some days that's your defense, some days that's one of your freaking 5 wide receivers that can go off at any time.
Second question. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
My second question is, do you feel like the performance that Jared Goff had this week against that quarterback, against that team, elevates him back into the MVP conversation?
For me right now, I'm gonna answer the last part first. For me right now, Goff is third in the MVP. Gurley, with this game, has surpassed him, but I still think that Mahomes is the leader in the MVP. Now things can change week to week, obviously.
Right.
Gurley has another four touchdown game. Mahomes goes to Cleveland and he throws 4 picks and only 1 touchdown. Maybe that elevates Gurley into the first position for me. Okay. It's just a team with a lot of stars, but Gurley is their main weapon right now. But when you have a quarterback of Jared Goff's caliber, Goff can easily beat you with just his arm with what he does.
Yeah.
I consider him as talented as Mahomes, even though Mahomes can get out of the pocket quicker as a faster runner, and he does throw darts. They both can throw darts. When Goff's on, man, he's surgical.
Hey, I'm going to put it to you this way, Eric. You tell me if I'm wrong, okay? I'll tell you right now. Mahomes is John Elway in his prime, and Jared Goff is Joe Montana getting ready to come out of his, come out. That's what these two remind me of. They remind me of Elway and Montana during their primes.
I do not see any of Elway in Mahomes.
Strong arm. Let me tell you where, because you're wrong. I'll tell you where. Mobility, strong arm, throws across his body, and will implant the football into your chest. If you don't catch it, your stomach will. That's all John Elway. Now, I'm not talking about the comeback, come from behind victory stuff. Yes, that was John Elway's MO. I'm talking about ability, talent, not necessarily outcomes right now. But the skill set that Mahomes has is very similar to John Elway. And Goff's skill set is very similar to Joe Montana's.
Me personally, I see more Steve Young than Patrick Mahomes.
Ooh, that's a good one too. Similar traits. Okay, last question. Okay, and by the way, I think Todd Gurley, if he breaks the rushing record, gets the MVP. I don't think it can be argued at that point. Here's my final question, and this is a tough one, and then we'll move on to the Saints Vikings. Does Aaron Rodgers, if they take a knee, drive them into field goal range and the Packers win the game 30-29 in your opinion?
It's tough because we've seen what Rodgers can do with about a little less than 2 minutes against the 49ers and what he was able to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And obviously it's a completely different defense, so it's comparing apples to oranges. The Rams defense was playing a lot better in the second half than the first half, in my opinion.
Agreed.
The Rams forced a 3-and-out the previous drive, which leads me to believe that the Rams defense was waiting on Aaron Rodgers to come back out, and they wanted to face that opportunity, but are glad that they don't have to, because Gurley was able to get the Rams to a victory.
Yeah.
Could Rodgers have done it? I get where you're coming from with 50-50, but I think it's more 60% no than 50-50.
Okay.
And I say no because the Rams defense was flying around the football in the second half when Rodgers had the ball.
Yeah. And
all it takes is one pressure from one side where he's not expecting it, and there's a pick by the Rams. There's a fumble.
Yeah.
There's a bad throw that forces a fourth down or whatnot, and then the fourth down throw is over Adams had or Allison's had or Cobb's had or something. The Packers made it seem like everything was Montgomery's fault and they wanted a scapegoat. Well, when you go 3-0 and take a sack on third down and lose 10 yards, why isn't Aaron Rodgers traded?
It's a good point. I mean, we know why he's not. But
literally, you could make a case saying, you know what, Aaron Rodgers acted like a little baby on the sidelines because he didn't get his chance. Well, no crap. Do you want to give Aaron Rodgers another chance? Hell no. I don't care if he's 2 years old or if he's 200 years old. You're not giving Aaron Rodgers another chance.
No, you're not. You're not. And it was a great play by Gurley.
He is one of the best comeback quarterbacks out there, but actually the quarterback who's got the most comebacks in the fourth quarter, you might know this, but a lot of other people won't, is Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's like, well, who would you rather go up against and face? Rodgers or Stafford? Even though Stafford got the most. Well, heck, I don't want to go up against Rodgers. Look what he did in week 1. Look what he did against the 49ers.
Yeah.
He was able to come back on those last minute plays. And the only reason why they didn't beat Detroit is because their kicker couldn't make a field goal.
That's true. That's true.
So no, you don't want to give the ball back to Rodgers. Gurley did the right thing, and Rodgers had a little hissy fit on the sidelines. And you know what? I want to see the Packers do more of that.
Yeah. Look.
But I was actually hoping that the Rams offense would blow out the Packers defense, and I figured Rodgers would get his, but it was actually a lot more entertaining game than I thought I would ever see.
Well, and that's one thing I want to say, too, is Green Bay impressed me because they showed they can play defense. I'll tell you, if they bring that same defensive effort against New England, they're going to win. They're going to win because New England doesn't have the ability to do the things that the Rams are able to do. And that defense isn't nearly as good as the Rams. So I think a 10-0 lead is actually going to be a 17-20 to nothing lead before New England gets going. And we know New England can't come back from that far down.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this much. The Packers exuded a lot of energy in the game against the Rams. And sometimes when you have that kind of game, the next week's game, you look flat.
Well, one of the greatest statistics I ever saw is the 86. It was either the 86 or 90 Giants. Every time they played somebody the following week, that opponent either lost or barely won, but more often than not, they lost. I think that's a testament to the physicality of the Giants back then. So you're absolutely right, Eric. You exert enough energy and you have a physical enough game, and this game was physical. Yeah, that can really hurt you the following week.
And especially in the game, because they're going to be in New England, but starting out in Green Bay, flying west, flying back, flying east. I don't know if I put too much stock into it, but it can wear on some people. And I know Rodgers is not one of those guys where he's going to be like, oh, well, all the travel, blah, blah, blah. But, some of the younger guys, it could definitely affect, I think, especially if they're not used to it. And then this way, Goff holds on to the ball longer than Brady, so you're going to see a lot of passes to Julian Edelman. And I told somebody that I work with that, he could expect Edelman to get 10 catches against the Bills. Well, he had 9.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you can hit those quick passes, you can really tire out the Green Bay defense. And the Rams didn't do that in the first half. So they started to do it in the second half because you could beat Green Bay's defense.
Yeah. Well, here's what's interesting. Minnesota at home against New Orleans.
Well, really quick, hold on. Sorry about this. One other point I want to make is I want to see more of Johnny Hekker at quarterback.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, not going to happen, Captain. But that was a nice play. I'm glad Shields was the one that got it, too. That's the reason the players love McVay is he understands the importance of games to guys. Sam Shields, this was a big game to him.
Yeah, actually, because he spent so much time in Green Bay. But the funny thing is that you could see the Packers coaches just ribbing on the guy covering Shields, and it's like, well, when do you ever expect that play?
Yeah.
Okay, you get playing passive in that situation and want to get down the field to block, but like all of a sudden, Shields catches that ball for 12 yards and it's a first down, and And so, what are you doing? Why aren't you with them or something like that? You see guys running down all the time. All Gunner has to do is stop, catch the ball, and it could be a first time 99 out of 100 times.
Exactly. The Viking game was interesting to me. Normally, the Vikings are the ones that have this moment that turns the tide in their favor against this football team, the Saints. But this year, it was reversed. They're up 13-10. Adam Thielen makes a catch. He's trying to get some extra yardage after the catch instead of just going down. And I'm not criticizing him for it. The Saints make a great play on defense. They punch the ball out. They take it to the house, or damn near take it to the house, score a touchdown on that drive, make it 17-13, and the game was over. I mean, from that point on, the Saints dominated. And when have you seen Drew Brees with that kind of stat line and still get a 10-point win? Well, I remember last year. They did that a lot last year. The last year Saints team showed up this year against the Vikings. And I think the Vikings are to the NFC this year what the Jaguars are to the AFC this year. And isn't it fitting that it's both teams that lost in the NFC Championship game last year? I had the Jaguars going to the Super Bowl. I had the Vikings losing a close one in the divisional round of Philadelphia. I don't know that either of those teams are making the playoffs this year. That's just the reality of it. Your take.
I still think the Vikings are a legit threat to win the NFC North. Listen, I choreographed this game like I played it beforehand and told you, the Saints were going to win and that Kirk Cousins was going to throw a pick at the most inopportune time. And Anthony, you could have ran that ball back.
Yeah.
And nobody would have caught you. That's how wide open.
I'm fat, so that would have been a feat.
That would have been a rumble. But yeah, Drew Brees 120 yards. You're like, really? If you told me Drew Brees had only 120 yards passing, I would have said the Vikings would have won by 30.
Yeah.
You know, it's rare, and yes, they did it last year, but Brees didn't have those. He didn't have that little yardage last year.
Buffalo.
I know they ran the ball, but
the Buffalo game.
Well, yeah, he also added rushing yards and a touchdown. I think 2 in that game too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, the Saints watch out. They're for real. 6-1, good showdown in the Superdome.
Oh yeah.
Coming up. It's literally going to be back and forth. No defense.
Here we go again, Eric. You're doubting the Rams D again.
I'm gonna say this. Both quarterbacks will have 6 or 7 touchdown passes in that game.
What? That's like the boldest of bold predictions. Shut up. Get out of here.
I'm telling you, you're looking at like a 49-48.
Eric, I will fly down to Chicago and kiss you on the lips if the Rams win and that happens. If the Rams lose and that happens, I'll fly to Chicago and I'll kick you in the privates.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be a game in the 40s. I'm telling you.
Wow, man. Right, all right. Hey, Eric said it. Bold prediction. We're not even there yet. All right.
We're not even there yet.
How about another bold prediction by you, E? Pick up the Patriots D. They'll do good for you. I'm like, all right, I'll pick up the Patriots D. 25 points against Buffalo. You did. I had the Patriots D on my fantasy team, and we rolled. But I didn't even need those points. That's a sad thing. I found out McCoy was playing. The guy I'm going against had Isaiah Crowell playing. So you knew he, broke his crap, threw his thing up in the air. I'm not talking about him. Had no chance to win when they announced that McCoy was going to play. And then the Patriots defense puts up a can of look butt on him. Oh, it was beautiful. This is what makes the Patriots great, in my opinion, is they beat the teams they're supposed to beat, and they beat them badly. And it doesn't matter if they play in London, if they play in Mexico, if they play in Foxborough, or your home stadium. You play them, and you suck, you're getting your teeth kicked in, and they're going to laugh all the way back home to Foxborough. That's what the Patriots do. What else can you say?
This is a game that I probably would have had Gronk wearing street clothes in.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to rest him up for the Green Bay game, because I think they really need to unleash him against Green Bay. Yeah. And throwing him out there, getting him a couple catches, sure, it keeps him fresh a little bit, but you always run that risk of Gronk getting injured or his back acting up or his ankle or something. They really didn't need him this game. Edelman, again, like I said, had 9 catches. Where was Kenyon Barner? He had like one or two rushes. They actually unleashed Cordero Patterson as their main running back when James White wasn't on the field. And White was more of, hey, you know what, I'm just going to catch passes out of the backfield and do my thing. Buffalo's a train wreck. I mean, it's like an explosive train wreck.
Yeah,
it's bad. Derek Anderson on the pick 6 too. Like, they're trying to get the guy and not run away. But he suffered a concussion, and Nathan Peterman came in, and guess who's starting on Sunday for the Bills? Yep, Nathan Peterman. So what they ended up doing on Wednesday was signing Matt Barkley for the rest of the season. So it's bad in Buffalo.
So bad.
I don't think Josh Allen can come back and save anything part of the season.
Congratulations. You made the playoffs for the first time in 24 years or whatever the hell it was. Now you suck all over again. It's so bad.
It's bad.
I feel bad for Buffalo, man. Oh, my goodness. All right. Really quick. I want to let everybody know I went 9-5 last week, so it's not like I did terrible. I just didn't do as good as these schmuck brothers. The show with LT is going to be a live stream. That's tomorrow at 9 o'clock Pacific time. So 8 o'clock Arizona time. I don't know what is that your time, Eric?
What time did you say again?
9 o'clock Pacific time.
It's 11 o'clock my time.
So 11 o'clock your time, then that would be what, 1 o'clock Eastern time?
12
o'clock. Sorry, 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. And then if you're in London, it's basically Wednesday. I don't know what to tell you. You guys are way off. All right? Just kidding. It's not that bad.
Okay, like 6 hours.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Anyway, if you guys want to watch that, that'll be fun. We're going to talk a lot about the Dante Fowler trade, which we didn't even cover with the Rams. We're going to talk about Dante Fowler next week. Or not next week, but the next show. Because I think that's really where this belongs. And we're going to start with the Rams rather than waiting for when they're going to show up on the schedule. So we'll timestamp this show and we'll timestamp that one. But just know that one we're going to start with the Rams and Bears, get them out of the way, and then take care of the rest of the games. AE, do you have anything to add?
I'm changing my pick to the Niners. The game's ugly.
What's the final score?
It's not final yet. But it's 31-3 going into the fourth quarter.
I told you.
It is brutal. Raheem Mostert had a touchdown run, and right after the touchdown run, John Gruden had his typical "what the heck" Chucky face on,
yeah,
and he literally mouthed "what the f." Things are bad. These are bad in open, and they're just going to get worse in Vegas.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's brutal. All right, well, good thing.
I'll say this too right now that I know they came out and said that Derek Carr was there for the long term. They meant long term after this, only for this season.
Yeah, they meant he was finished. I don't see
right.
Right. They meant he wasn't being traded at the deadline. He's gone at the end of this year, and I think Miami is his destination. Eric, I really believe that. I think you're right. The more I think about it, I think it's a better fit. You can get a decent pick because I don't think Miami's going to finish necessarily strong. You could probably get a first-round pick for him and maybe get Tannehill in return and use Tannehill as a back.
Why not Tannehill and Parker?
Well, I think you get Tannehill as a backup because then you got to pay 2 quarterbacks. You get Tannehill as a backup and then you go draft yourself a QB with the first-round pick they offer you. I think it's
I'm saying, what about Carr for Tannehill and Parker?
Well, I think
you draft a quarterback, groom 1 year behind Tannehill, and then make Tannehill.
Do you really think David Carr is worth 2 former number 1 players that are at least decent and good?
Is Carr any decent right now?
No, that's my point.
Okay, neither are Tannehill and Parker.
They're better than he is.
I would take Carr over Tannehill any day.
Right, but I wouldn't take Carr over Tannehill and Parker. I take Carr over Tannehill. Yeah. You throw Parker in there and I'm like, you want to F what? No, that's not going to happen. I'll give you my Chucky face and mouth what the F too on that one. All right. Bro, seriously. The Dolphins aren't that bad. Come on. All right. Horns up.
Bear down.
Go Rams.
Go Bears.
See you guys later. Peace.